what is the issue with meat production in the United States? Let's give people a summary, because I know we've talked about this before, but I want people to know what we're talking about.
Well, the issue is that you can pull off on any wide place in the road in the U.S. and sell cucumbers and squash and green beans, so and apples and pears and peaches and grapes. So there's really no regulation to produce, which is why it dominates farmers markets. It dominates local food systems. It dominates all that because it's a relatively unregulated thing. But as soon as you get into meat, poultry, and dairy, the animal component, which actually comprises half of the average consumer dollar, so roughly half of it is to animal protein, 25% of it is to dry goods like flour and sugar and salt, and then 25% of it is to produce, veggies and fruits and things. Obviously, the lion's share of not only the grocery budget, but the lion's share of land use is around animals. And that's what's regulated stringently. And so that's why the animal protein component is overly expensive. It's overly centralized. And it's overly, it's less accessible from a local food standpoint than any of the others.
You taught me this the last time we did a show together, which in my memory was April, May of 2020, the year that everything ended. And you corrected me, and I've thought about it ever since, because I was thinking about the supply chain when it comes to food as this incredibly decentralized process that they were disrupting with lockdown orders and everything else. And you said, well, wait a minute. I think it's a very centralized and brittle system, particularly when it comes to meat processing. What did you mean?
Well, what I meant was that there are roughly 300 processing facilities that are the conduit, the funnel for 85% of America's animal protein supply. 300 mega companies, let me say. And so when you have that much concentration, where that much stuff has to go through, one channel, if there's a blockage in that channel, there's a massive effect throughout the industry. I mean, the question I always ask people, it's so obvious, it's rhetorical. It's, would we have had as big a hiccup in May of 2020 in the food supply with empty, supermarket shelves and stuff, if we had 300,000, community-based, smaller scale processing facilities as the conduit of animal proteins into the marketplace? Would we have had less of a hiccup than having only 300? And this is, you don't have to be a Democrat or a Republican to realize intuitively, if we'd have had 300,000, absolutely we would have been able to adjust easier, because when there are disruptions in the system, when you're navigating rocky shoals, you don't want to be in an aircraft carrier. You want to be in a speedboat. Yeah. And so speedboats are able to navigate those difficult waters.
Decentralized local knowledge. It's a thing.
Absolutely. Decentralization, democratization of access. I mean, look, if you're running a 5,000 employee mega processing facility, which is what these are, it's cold, it's dark, it's damp, 5,000 people in there. That's like an incubator for viruses. I don't want to get in a big debate about the legitimacy of COVID and all that, but right. but that is an environment that's conducive to bacterial, viral, pathogenic growth, and so if you run a very small plant and you're not running around the clock and you don't have the amount of guts and blood and hair and feathers and whatever, on the floor, scale is a thing. It just is a thing. And I'm not opposed to business size inherently, but when you come to biology, it's not just a mechanical manufacturing plant. There are actually living bacteria and salmonella and there are living things in there.
Yeah.
It's not just widgets in a Ford plant.